right, so you may have noticed in previous videos that this has been sitting in the background with the window always down. And it's really not just that we like rain inside it, it's that the window is broken. And we'll go to Eric for why the window is broken.
It hasn't rained yet, so it's fine. There's no mold in my car. And we're just going to put a new window.
So today we're going to put a new window in it. Well, Eric's going to put a new window in it, and I'm going to tell him how to do it. So
no, he's going to watch and laugh.
That too. All right, so the first thing that we want to do, we ordered a window from online, and it arrived, and this is what the window looks like. So you can see that it has the mounts in the bottom of it, right here and here. It's not a Honda genuine glass or whatever, but most glass is made by like one of several companies anyway, so realistically Honda isn't making Honda glass, they're getting it from like Pilkington or something along those lines.
Well, if it was a Honda glass, it would have cost $800.
Fair. Okay.
And that cost $80.
So the first thing that we want to do is we're going to take the door panel off. Removing the door panel is going to require us to remove a couple screws. So there's one here, up high in the latch, up there. There's one here in the cup, or whatever. There's one here, you're standing in front of the camera. So there's one here in the latch. There's one here inside the cup. On the bottom of the door panel, there's often a screw, but there isn't in this car. There is one right here, but this is a plastic screw with a fitting on the inside that kind of expands when you screw it in. And we're also going to have to remove the door window crank and use a pick for that. So we'll let Eric get started on the screws that you can see. These are all going to be Phillips, 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 and number 2, Phillips. So we've got our 3 screws out. Now this cup is just going to lift up like that.
Oh.
And it's screwed into the metal frame here in order to make it so that when you pull the door shut, you're not pulling on the door panel, you're pulling on this handle. Right here, this plastic ring will generally come out because there's like a tab that locks it into the door panel. So what you do is you kind of pull the handle, you pull this out, and then this is going to kind of twist around it, and this comes out. This has to come out before the door panel, or you'll end up breaking the tabs off of the back. Then this retainer can come out. It's just a plastic kind of a push-in retainer that expands when you put the screw in there. And then last but not least, we have this crank. Now on the crank, there's a clip. It's a metal ring, and I'll pull it out and I can kind of show you on the camera. But I use a pick for this, a hook pick. And you just need to be very careful that you don't shoot it across the garage, which I've done many, 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 many times.
Well, if you shoot it across the garage, does that mean I have to buy a new one?
Mm-hmm. Oh. But they sell them at O'Reilly's. So if you end up losing this clip, they sell them at like every auto parts store. But basically what you'll see is there's like a spline that goes in here. So there's a spline. And here there's like a notch all the way around the spline. So this goes in the spline, and then this sits in that notch. So it just kind of pushes in here like that. So when you're putting it back together, you just stick this on, and you slide this in, and you make sure it's in the hole. Or you can actually put this on ahead of time and push it in, and it'll go into the hole because the end of this is beveled.
We should do a video on replacing this.
So now that we've got... Yeah, now that we've got this out, so the bottom is going to pop, not the top. The bottom is going to pop out, and it's going to lift off of this edge. So it's hooked, kind of like that.
Oh.
One thing that's going to be unique about this car compared to a average Civic is that this has aftermarket speakers in it, and somebody added a tweeter to the door panel like this. So this isn't a factory tweeter. So we might have to cut the wire and reconnect it later. There might be push connectors or something in there that we can take apart. So you kind of want to firmly pull along the bottom edge, and then you want to lift up the back and kind of tuck it backwards and up at the same time.
Oh,
so
connectors.
So what we can see in here is they have some connectors, and that's the crossover for the component system, the Infinity crossover. It's not a great idea to mount those in the doors. The reason for that is because this is a wet area, and those generally don't do very well with wet. A lot of people do that because it's kind of the lazy way. If you mount this in the door, then you don't have to run additional speaker wire into the door. If you mount it in the car, then you have to run a speaker wire in for the tweeter. So a lot of people do this. It's just not a good idea because it ends up all rusty like this.
Take a video of that.
So what you can see here is all of the glass is inside the door. So we're gonna have to vacuum that out. Now normally there would be a vapor barrier here. That's what this plastic is that goes all the way around like that. And this is ripped right now. Like somebody cut this out previously, probably when they were installing that speaker system, but I honestly don't know. Maybe somebody's worked on the door or the window mechanism or the window in the past. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get the shop vac out. We're gonna vacuum all of this up and we'll come back after we're done with that. And one other thing, I would take the screws out of pull out these black plastic ones, these 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can take out the speaker inside the assembly, and that'll give us more access for the vacuum. And I'll get the vacuum. Start fitting the window inside the car.
Oh, already?
So this can be a little challenging.
Oh, great.
There's going to be an access hole here, and we're going to lower our window mech down so that we can get at these. We're going to lower our window mech down so that we can get at these bottom bolts. They're going to be a 10 millimeter. So there's one here, and then there's another one that's over here, and there really isn't a good access hole for that one, so I guess we're just going to have to use a 10 millimeter wrench. Alright, so we're going to loosen up this screw here, this 10 mil, and that's going to allow us to pull out this mount, which has a piece of glass in it. This mount is replaced with on the new window. So that's going to come out, and then there's also another one that's back here, and that one can be accessed through this hole if you slide the frame over.
That's sick.
So here's that one, and the 10 millimeter screw for it. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to put the window in from the top, and when we put the window in, we're going to have to kind of bring it in from the outside, bring it down, and get it into these weather strips. Now on Hondas, you kind of want to tuck the front because the back rests under this, and this weather strip is kind of able to be pulled back. So, all right, so we're going to take this window and we're going to tuck the bottom in like this, and we're going to push the front forward to get it into the weather strip, and then the back we can kind of come down diagonally with and just work it into place like that. So now there's a window track that this rides up and down in, and we need to keep it in the right position. So if you hold it back as you ride it down, you should be able to slide it down the track. Now, one thing that you might find is that maybe there's a little bit of glass or some other stuff that's, you know, still in this track. Like right there, you heard that piece of glass fall out. So that's something that you might run into. So we're going to open up the store a little bit, and we're just going to work the glass on the inside of the track. And it's kind of hard to see, but you have good visibility of the whole track all the way down. So when I get it down to where it's supposed to be, I'm going to start the 10 millimeter loosely in this spot. Not gonna like torque it down, just make it so it's kind of snug. And we're gonna test fit the window. And then we'll do the same thing here. You might find that you have to coax it one way or another to make it fit, like I do. Again, if you've got glass in your tracks, that's gonna make it not easy to do. One thing that you can do to make it a little bit easier is you can use like some dry lube in the tracks. The thing is, you will have to clean that off the edge of your windows at some point. But
Well, why? Because it looks bad, or because it ruins the window?
because it looks bad.
Oh.
I mean, maybe you don't care about the appearance. That's fine too. All right, so we've got the window in and it's kind of snug. We're gonna just test it up and down. And take it easy with this because, like I said, you might have pieces of glass or other things in there. And it doesn't really take much to break a tempered window, especially from the edge. So when we get it all the way to the top, that's when we want to tighten these bolts in the position that they belong in. So we've got the window all the way up, the window is tight. So now we can take a 10 mil and we're gonna have to kind of work inside the door here, behind the metal, and tighten up the two 10s that we loosened up when it was at the bottom.
Why do you want to tighten it when it's at the top?
Because the window can move forward and backwards, and really the only thing that we care about from a seal perspective is the top. So if it's in the right position at the top, we don't care about the position when it's at the bottom in the door.
Oh.
I mean, we do, but we don't.
Yeah.
If it's here, it's going to fall into place at the bottom. So now we take this out, and we can run it down.
This thing has no clip.
Again, we're going to be careful
Yeah, careful.
because, well, as you hear, there's pieces of glass that are kind of falling out of the track. And again, it doesn't take much to break one of these. So that's it. Probably could have put a little bit of dry lube in here anyway, just because it's a little rough, and these are a little bit worn out. So let me grab some.
I get free stuff because he's doing it for me, camera.
That's true. I did say you were doing it, and then I did it for you, didn't I?
You definitely did.
I have a bad habit of doing that. Don't I?
But hey, I watched, so now I know how to do it.
Well, I don't have dry lube, so we'll use a little bit of WD-40 with the straw.
And I did find a 6-inch speaker that I have, but it's a woofer.
So we'll just run this up and down a couple of times. The lube isn't as important if you have manual windows like this car does. If you've got power windows, that's when it becomes, you know, kind of necessary to have that because the motors are only going to push up with so much force. Go ahead. All right.
Wow.
So now that we're done with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to vacuum out the door again because some glass fell out when we moved the window up and down, and then we can put the door panel and everything back on and clean everything up. All right, so we've got the window in the door. It's all the way up. I'm going to remove my window crank again. Eric's going to put his speaker back in. We'll vacuum up the glass, and then we'll put the door panel back on.
Well.
at this point, we found a problem with his speaker when we took it out. One of the terminals is actually broken off of the paper, so we're just going to not put the speaker back in. He's going to get some new speakers to replace that. Normally what I would do is I would put a new vapor barrier in here as well at the same time. You just use plastic, and this glue is pretty common, something that they sell. We're going to be back in here very soon for the speaker and stuff, so I'm just going to leave this as is for now, and then we'll redo that when we put the speaker in. So normally you wouldn't have to deal with this, but you might have to cut a small slit in your vapor barrier to get at those screws that I was working on for the window. If you do have to do that, a couple pieces of duct tape can repair that pretty easily, and duct tape is resistant to water and those types of things, so you wouldn't have to worry so much about getting water in. The purpose of the vapor barrier is to keep the cabin from having moisture in the car, because this is kind of a wet zone and this is a dry zone on this side technically, but as you can see, it's not sealed very well. You know, there's all these pins and different things like that. So are you ready to put the door panel back on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow, that's crazy.
So we grab the door panel here, and just like when we're taking it off, we're going to hook the speaker up first.
Oh, yeah. Let me do that.
Again, you probably won't have to deal with this unless you have aftermarket speakers in your door.
Is that heavy?
No.
Oh. I thought it would be funny that I'm taking so long to do that.
Okay. So then we're going to tuck the front and kind of slide door panels in. So now we're going to go around and we're going to snap these pins back into place, the ones that I kind of pulled out one snap. So we just go like this. And you'll hear them kind of snap into place as you go around. There are no pins across the top in a Honda. There are in a lot of German cars, Mercedes, BMW, things like that. They'll have pins across the top as well. So we've got this in place. Just kind of feel around and make sure the gap feels consistent. You'll know you're not missing any clips. So that looks good. Next, we can put these screws back in. So this has this plastic retainer. It's shaped kind of like a square. So all you can do is bend these pins in a little bit with your fingers, and you'll be able to push this into place like that. And then once that's in place, this screw doesn't actually get screwed in, it gets pushed in. So you can take this and you can just push it in like that, and now it's in. Now, the other two, we've got the door handle here. So this is gonna go off, or go on the same way it came off. So you kind of tuck it in here like this. And then if you're looking at it, you'll see there's like a hook that goes this way. So you just kind of bring it back and put it in, and then it slides forward just a little bit and locks into place. The vinyl is peeling off of the door panel on this car. Normally you wouldn't have to deal with that seam because this would be glued into place. It just kind of is what it is. It's an older car. You'll see that there's two different screws. This one has like a fat head with a ring around it, and this one's just a flatter, like a pan screw. This goes in the door handle, the latch, the one that I just put on. This goes in the cup where you actually put your hand. So if you want to put this in there.
Okay.
Eric?
Where did this come from?
Right.
Oh, which one?
Top.
Okay.
And this is always a good chance to clean these cups out. They're always gross because people's hands are generally gross and they're kind of hard to clean. So now that I have this out, I'm just going to spray a little bit of the interior cleaner in here. And then we can just kind of
clean that out so many.
So the cup's cleaned out. And now what we can do is we can put this back in. It only goes in one way. You'll see it's kind of angled. So it's like that, where it's angled this way. And then there's a single Phillips in the bottom there that we can put into place, which is right here. And while he's putting that screw in, on this handle, there's a clip. This clip is going to slide into this slot, and you always slide it in from the back side, not from the side with the handle. So you want it to kind of look like that. If you lose this clip, they sell them at O'Reilly's. They're a universal thing. I used to have a kit of them when I did this for a living, but that's that's kind of the position that you want it to be in, so that you can see there's like a little piece of metal that's sitting there, and this springs. So when I push this on, it's going to spring out and it's going to grab onto that slot. So Now we can just take this. This goes into place like that. And that's it. We're in.
I have a window.
All right, so the installation's complete. Thank you for watching and have a great day.